All right, so today we're going to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. Two things, actually, Figma and illustrating. I was illustrating long before Figma came out, so this is why it's so awesome for me to have these three here with us today. A little bit about myself. My name's Raji King. Just go by Raji most of the time, the Raj Daddy, whatever you want to call me, really, I don't care. I'm a designer, artist, front-end developer, and designer advocate at Figma. And I'm helping to start this group, this Friends of Figma Art and Illustration group. The reality is that Bonnie, Kate, Pablo, and Justin are also helping me start this group and get it kicked off. And really anybody who else wants to help with the organization of these events, I would love that. Let's start off with some introductions. So Pablo, I'll ask you in just a second, but first, our first speaker up will be Pablo Stanley at the websites below pablostanley.com. Or his incredible blush design. That's a plugin that he might talk about a little bit, but it's a plugin for Sketch and for Figma that allows you to create your own illustrations. Pablo is this awesome illustrator and personality within our design world. If you don't know or haven't seen him, where have you been? Like, where actually have you been? A little bit of a peek into some of Pablo's work. He's got this really fun style, just sort of like very hand-drawn, very accessible feeling, super, super spirited. This is a little preview of his blush plugin. Lots of installs here, lots of people using this on Figma. He also does these really cool animations as well, like frame-by-frame animations that I believe that he uses Procreate for. Just pick this one up. He does lots of really fun GIFs and things like that. Here's another example of something really fun that Pablo created. So anyways, first of all, I just want us to all say hi to Pablo. And then Pablo, I want to know, tell us whatever you want to tell us about yourself, but I also want to know, like, what inspires you the most when it comes to art?
Yeah, well, a little bit about myself. I suppose I'm from Mexico. I'm from Baja California, from a border town called Mexicali. One thing that is like something that I don't think I shared a lot is that since we're talking about doodles and illustration and all that stuff, like, even before being a designer, my professional activities involved being part of a gang, a Mexican gang. But my responsibilities in the gang was being the one that did the graffiti. So it was I was in the creative department of the gang, like doing all the graffitis and all the murals and all that stuff. So this is a little bit of back in the past. And what inspires me, I want to say people, like friends, family, and I don't know, like the stuff that surrounds you, like any other person, I suppose, that you get inspired by the whatever is around you, your culture and your people and everything. Food, lots of food. But I don't know, like that's a boring answer. It's a very typical answer.
I especially don't think that you being a part of a gang and their graphic artist is a boring answer at all. I guess that's the culture that you were informed by. I learned something new about you every time, Pablo. Well, let's move on. We're also going to have in the middle of our session Bonnie Kate Wolf talk. Her name is Bonnie Kate, edited by a wolf. I learned that it's a difficult thing to learn. She's at bonniekatewolf.com. Just letting you know that if you want to call her Bonnie Kate and Ashley Dyer Wolf, this is something I like to call her, and I'm sure she's absolutely not okay with this at all. A little peek into Bonnie Kate's work. She has some really interesting and varied styles here. Here's one of the most recent pieces of work. I believe that this is Taylor Swift. I believe that actually Bonnie Kate is a huge Taylor stan, but so some really, really interesting realism here. She's done this in Figma, but I also really love this more simplified style that she does, using a lot of gradient techniques. It's really fun and really unique, and I really love it. Here's another example of something a little bit more akin to the last illustration. And then, of course, she also does icon design. She also just got a brand new job at Netflix. And so everybody say hello to Bonnie Kate. I always mess it up. Everybody say hello to Bonnie Kate, but also, hi, Bonnie Kate. Tell us about what inspires you to make art. And tell us about yourself.
Hello. here I am from San Francisco, where I'm from, and let's see, what inspires me? People. That's probably pretty obvious because a lot of the things I do is make portraits. I love movies and music and television. I love storytelling. And rainbows is another big thing for me. I've realized I'm just trying to accept that, like, I love a rainbow and I'm just going to put it in all the art. I also love fashion and clothing. So textiles, I make the clothes and then I draw the clothes. I don't have a cool story about being a graphic designer for a gang, unfortunately. But my background comes from pixel art. So when I was 8, my dad taught me how to use Jask Paint Shop Pro, and I started making little dogs and drawing them pixel by pixel. And Jen's here. Sorry, just look at the chat. I shouldn't look at the chat. It's distracting. But Jen's here, guys. Jen's here. Yeah, I've been doing the little pixel by pixel for a long 20 years now. And that's kind of why I make icons. I just can't stop doing all the pixels. Is that a good answer? I hope it was.
That's a great answer. And for the audience, Bonnie Kate also made what she's wearing. So it's super cool to see all the creations that she wears and then covers her human flesh with. It's very cool. But
what I will wear, because you missed it, but she volunteered to make a singlet or a stringlet for me, and so very honored by that decision. It means a lot.
Well, and I believe that it's going to be a Figma-themed singlet, a finglet. I don't know, that sounds wrong, but like something like that could probably work. Come up with a better pun for me, please. And lastly, I'm going to introduce Justin Mezzell. His website is justinmezzell.com. I also put in Super Team Deluxe because that is Justin and I's pet little project together where we create goods that you don't need but that you want. All kind of graphic design related, but a little bit of Justin's work here. And the reason why I brought him on, I think that he complements the other two speakers very well. Justin's style is very, I could say glowy. I feel like that's a very professional term that'll go over your heads. But it's very glowy and very like emanating and orby. Justin has a really great command of light and gradients, but he also has a really unique process where he uses the grid for a lot of things. Just like Tron, that boy loves the grid. You can see another example of some really cool work that he's done, some isometric illustration. You'll see some commonality here too with like, Justin's good at sort of like seeing how light refracts off of other things and how light will play with different elements on the scene. I love this little wisp. He made this in Figma. I had to share it. And also he does stuff like this in Figma as well. So you're gonna get a taste of a lot of different styles here. Anyways, Justin, tell us about your life's views, philosophies on the world, and yourself, why you're a man, what you are. Tell us more.
To be a man. Most days I don't even think about being one. But I would say in general, like for inspiration, like you probably tell, I love sci-fi. I love horror films. I play video games on occasion every now and then. But similar to Bonnie Kate, I think stories are a really big part of it. When I was growing up, I always wanted to like make films. And I did not inherit a fortune or grow up in Los Angeles. And so I made pictures of movies that I wanted to make. And that was kind of how it all started, was I would just like make visuals of stories that I thought were cool or interesting or compelling, or I would watch a film or play a game and then make art related to that. Or create a lot of Legos around that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about kind of where the inspiration comes from. I'd say it's still that way. But I'd say, similar to everybody else, like, so much of art and inspiration and creativity just comes from friends and good conversations that go late into the night where something really important and poignant comes up and you think, how do I express the gravity of this concept? And you have no other choice but to build something out of it. And it looks like whatever comes out of you. So that's a big part of it too. Thanks for having me here.
Hey, thanks so much. I think I'm so excited that y'all are here. We're at our 10 minutes of intro time, and I don't want to take away from all the great time that y'all have planned. So with that, we're going to go, meaning we're going to go into the session. We're not going to just leave now. So Pablo, it is you. You are up. You are the first one. And are you ready?
Okay, let's do this. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so now let's see if hopefully it works, the whole sharing the screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, we see in the infinite, in the abyss.
Am I allowed to talk during Pablo's thing and make fun of him?
I would ask that you absolutely heckle the shit out of Pablo. That would be great.
Pablo, comfortable?
What's that?
I just wanted to get you comfortable with me talking at you. You make your beautiful things.
Yeah, why not? There's a delay, so maybe if I'm like, I might ask you to repeat it because I might be talking, and then when you talk, I might not hear it. But yeah, for sure. So let's just start. Like I'll try to be super quick. Today, well, first of all, hello humans. Today, we're going to be doing something that I like to call the Auto Robot 3000. And this is going to be robots made with auto layout. So made a sketch of where we're going to be building today. As you can see, like different, like a head and like different variants that are part of the head, and also like, well, the neck, and also like the body and different things that are like turn everything into one single robot. And the idea here of the goal is to create robot doodles using auto layout from Figma, and also creating a small illustration system, like using variants and components to like being able to create one component. That component you can reuse it and just like create different robots and just mix it up, mix different things and components into different compositions. And well, before we get into it, let me just show you like a demo of what I'm talking about. So it's just like pretty basic shapes. I'm sure that you can here like take it more as an inspiration to do your own thing. But the idea here is, for example, here I have this robot, and you can just like grow it. And as you can grow it, you see that it starts expanding all its elements, and all the elements inside it are actually components too. They have variants. So let's say that you wanted to like, hey, instead of that, I don't know, that, what do you call this, body, you want it to be a different body, or this other body. And then when you actually resize it, then the rest of the elements also resize. And the same can happen with this element where they are also arms. You can change it to a different arm. Look, like it has a different arm and different elements. So so that's the idea, where it's like, creating doodles with elements and then put them together with auto layout. So like all of this is actually an auto layout. If we were to change it, the spacing, the order of it, you will see that actually everything is just like following an auto layout. Auto layouts nested inside auto layouts, so you can even put the legs on top if you wanted to. Okay, cool. So that's just a demo. The agenda today is going to be like, hey, let's go over colors, let's create some eyes, grills, body, head, legs, arms, and assemble. So first of all, I just like put like a pretty simple like color palette. So you're going to see that I put some ink colors and also some accent colors too. So they're all here. And the cool thing about creating a color palette is that later, if you're using the color palette consistently, if you change your mind, you can just change the color in one place and it changes everywhere else. So I would always advise, like, even starting with a simple color palette and start using it, because it's going to make your life easier. I know that it looks like it's going to be like, oh, but I don't want to create a palette and all this. This sounds like a lot of work. It's actually going to save you a lot of work and a lot of time later if you start this way. That's just my little advice. So the first thing, let's create some eyes. So I put some sketch here. So like we want to, it's just like simple shapes. So just like circles, like next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and just, oh no, this is a line. So press O to add a circle, and 24 pixels actually that's pretty good. I'm going to put next to each other. I'm going to press Shift A. So now I created an auto layout of it. And on this color, I'm going to actually change it to one of these colors, maybe this one. And well, we cannot see it anymore, but don't worry, we can add a fill to the auto layout. We can add as a background. And then the cool thing is that we can just like add some padding around it, you know, like let's go to 8 pixels, and then we can add some corner radius. And the cool thing here is that really easily, like I just create a set of eyes that looks like this. And if I wanted to like change something, you know what, instead of 20 pixels in and between the elements, between the eyes, I can say 24. And if I wanted to make it, I don't know, maybe I want to make one set of eyes that is actually 3 eyes. Really easily, I just like duplicated one of the eyes, and now I have a set of eyes with 3 eyes, because one of the eyes, maybe it's a wide angle lens, you know, so we can even make it a little bit bigger. You know, maybe this one, but that doesn't look very good. So what you can do is just like go to the auto layer and actually center it. And now you have, I don't know, one of the lenses on the eyes is a little bit wider. So this one, I'm starting to like it. Let's say that we actually change it to like, I don't know, these colors on my color palette. So these are the set of eyes. I know it doesn't look like much. The idea is that once you put everything together, it starts looking good. So I already created some eyes here, some eyes variations. I'm going to put them over here. Let's move them over here with the rest of these eyes. And one thing that now I'm going to actually turn it into components. But before I turn it into components, I want to rename them. So I'm going to press Command R, and I'm going to say eyes, eyes, and then I'm going to add a number. Maybe you can be a little bit more specific later, but for now, it's just like eyes and a number. I'm going to press now I'm going to turn into components. They're not components yet. What you can do is go over here and say create multiple components. And now that they're multiple components, you can say combine as variants. And now that they are variants, now I can actually use them and interchange them. So I'm actually also going to add an auto layout just so everything is nice and tidy here on my variants. I'm going to say 16 pixels between them. So now whenever I add, I don't know, like a set of eyes, I can actually change it to any other of the other eyes, you know, like the other ones that we created. Again, maybe these names are not that great. So I would always advise to go in there and actually rename your things in a way that makes more sense. But the cool thing is that even when you create a component, since all of this is made without the layout, even if you wanted to say like, hey, I like this eye that is like this component, but you know what? I want to change the padding. Even if it's a component, you can change the padding of it. You know what? Something like this, you still have that control even when it's a component on the auto layout. That's a pretty cool stuff, I think. So, okay, so that's, these are the components. Actually, they're called component 1, but we want to call them eyes. Eye. And this property, maybe we want to call it type of eyes. I know you're saying like, Pablo, we were promised doodles. When are the doodles coming? You're just creating systems. Don't worry, we're gonna get there. So now we're gonna get to the mouth. So we already created this and we want to create different sets of mouths. And again, pretty simple shapes. What do we want? I really like this kind of mouth that it looks like a grill, and it's like like from Futurama, the Bender mouth. I don't know if you've seen it. Let's make it a 32 pixels and 8 pixels wide. So we have our base. Let's make it a 4 pixels on the corner radius, and I'm going to duplicate it. Now that I duplicate it, I'm going to press Shift A. So now it's created an auto layout. I'm going to say that it's 8 pixels of spacing between the elements, and I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to create a pretty big grill, and maybe one of these grills, I'm going to change the color of all of them. Maybe we go with our ink to be this. Maybe we add a background that is like a dark background. It doesn't look that great, so let's add a little bit of padding, maybe some corner radius. We have a pretty nice grill there, but maybe one of these is actually, I don't know, let's make it a little bit bigger and let's make it a yellow. You know, it has like a gold tooth there, or robot. It's just like has a little bit of bling there. Maybe maybe now it's too much. Let's remove. The cool thing is that I can just like select them, delete it, boom. It made everything for me. So, okay, so I already made another set of mouths. They're all using auto layout too. So you're going to see that they're all auto layout. They have a background and everything. Even this one that is just like a line, even this one also is using an auto layout. So if I wanted to create like the padding here on the left and on the right is 0. But if I wanted to put more padding here, I can easily do that. And also, let's see if it resizes. What happens if it resizes? Not great, right? So what you can do here is here, instead of a fixed width, you want to be filling the container. And that way, if you, I don't know, if you want to make the mouth a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, this thing is going to be resizing with it. And also, it looks like if I resize it and I make it a little bit too tall, it's just remaining on the top. So you want to align it to the center. Okay, so now this grill, this mouth, it looks like a, I don't know, like a radiography. What do you call this? I don't know, like a pulse thing. Now it's going to always remain in the center. So let's put our blink grill over here. Let's do the same as we did before. I'm going to rename all of this. I'm going to call them mouth, and I'm going to add a number, rename them. Let's turn them all into multiple components. Let's combine them as variants. Let's add a little bit out to layout so they're all, they're all organized. Let's call them type of mouth or grill, whatever you want to call it. Cool. So we have our mouths. Now we have our mouths. And don't worry, like this same process, I already did it on the rest. So the other thing that we want to do is the neck. You know what? It's really simple. It's just like rectangles put in an auto layout. I'm going to show you how I did it. It's just like a rectangle, and then I duplicated it and then created that as spacing. And that spacing between them is 8 pixels. But if I wanted to make it a longer neck, I can do that, or I can even duplicate one of these. And now we have like an ET neck, like a little bit of a longer neck. And if I want to, like, you know what? Maybe another cool thing is that you can duplicate it. And you know what? To duplicate it, now it's a different component, and you can even change the colors of it. So maybe this one is going to be like a darkish, like this one is going to be very similar to this one, but maybe the spacing between them is a little bit tighter, maybe 4 pixels. And yeah, we have another neck. So we have already created all the variants on the necks. And now let's create the body. The body, all these bodies are also made without the layout. Let's create one of them. And it's like this. It's I don't know, like bodies, like all 50s movies, like bodies that are like big buttons and unnecessary little things that are just like, what does that button make? We don't know, but it looks cool. So that's the kind of style that we're aiming for here. So I'm going to just like add some of these circles. I'm going to press Shift A so it creates one auto layout. And one cool thing that we're going to do here is we're actually going to be nesting different auto layouts. So I'm going to do the same here, and I'm going to create, I don't know, maybe this is like a ventilation, because maybe the robot gets a little bit there's a little bit of heat. It's over processing, so we need some ventilation on it. So so this one is going to be another auto layout. So I'm going to press Shift A. It's already no Shift A. There you go, and maybe 4 pixels on the spacing. And now these two, I'm going to also add another auto layout. I know you're thinking, Pablo, this is very boring. What are you doing? And I'm going to say like, no, wait, you have to be patient. Let's add a little fill here, maybe a dark fill, and maybe the buttons, let's just start with a yellow, and this one, we could potentially change it to just like a lighter of this, because it's like the same, it's kind of like the part of the body. Maybe this one, it's a different color. Let's make it this one, and we can make it a little bit bigger. The cool thing is that when you make it bigger, see how everything adjusts? Mamma mia, auto layout is the best. Okay, let's center it so it looks cool like this. And let's add a little bit of corner radius, and we have another body. And let's put it over here. I'm going to turn it into a component. Create a component. Now that it's a component, I can put it over here, and now it's going to be another variant on my bodies. And something that you're going to notice here is that if I resize this, the bodies are also resizing. And that's so when I assemble it, the bodies are actually are responsive in a way. So I'm actually going to make this one, they're all like center, so the body's like actually center. I want them to be center, so they resize however they resize. And I want to do the same with this one. I want to be, instead of being hogging the contents, I want to fill, no, the whole body. Fill the container. There you go. And apparently this one was fill the container. It should be hog the contents. And that way, if I put it and I center it, the elements are going to be centered. So now even if I resize it and I make it smaller, see how all the elements are always center. And that's the effect I want. So, okay, we created a body, arms. Let's not go over the arms, but it's the same process. I created different elements. And one thing that I made different here is that I made like the part between the shoulder. Is that what you call this? Yeah, the shoulder and the hand. This one is actually filling the container. That way, if we were to resize our arms, look at this. Like, see how this part of the arm also resizes? It looks like it didn't do it here, so let's actually apply it here. So this part and this part, instead of a fixed height, we want it to be fill container. And now that it's filled the container, it pushes all the elements outside and it's trying to fill whatever the container is. So look at this. It's always going to be responsive. Me again, like this is pretty, I don't know. I'm sorry. I get pretty excited about this. Okay, cool. So we're starting to get to the assembly part. So the assembly is going to be, first of all, we want to assemble the head. The head, and to assemble the head, well, we need some eyes and a mouth and a neck. Let's actually, I just grabbed components from the variants. Let's grab them over here. Let's put them over here. And I already created also something that I didn't show you is antennas. Antennas for a head. So the first thing is we want to create the head, right? So the head is going to be the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to add another auto layout on these components, Shift A. And I'm going to say that the spacing between them is maybe 32. I'm going to add a fill. That's going to be the color of the body. Maybe this one is a little bit gray. Let's add a little bit of spacing. And let's add some coordinate radius and let's center all these elements. Look, it's supposed to be a robot. Now let's change the eyes. Instead of those eyes, let's change it to this. This is a cool thing about creating the components. Now you can say hey, what about this? And what about, I don't know, this one. Okay, that's my head. That's going to be my base of my head. It looks like RoboCop. So that's it. Let me add an antenna over here. So this is going to be the face. And I have an antenna and I have a neck. And now I'm going to add another auto layout. Yes, another auto layout, spacing 0. And I'm going to center it. Now that it's centered, it looks like a head. So I'm going to call it head and I'm going to turn it into a component. Boom. Now we have our head component. The cool thing is that now whenever I create an instance of it, I can change any of these things. So, by the way, yeah. So I can change, you know what, instead of this neck, let's put it this neck and see how everything just resizes to adapt. And if I want it to be, instead of this antenna, I want it to be this other antenna, everything adapts to the size of it. It's just magic, my friends. Magic, I tell you. So, okay, so we have our head is working. Now we already made the bodies, right? And I already created legs, same thing, auto layout, nested auto layouts. I already created all these legs. So let's start putting them together. Again, here's the demo. Look at it. And now don't look at it because we're going to make it from scratch. So I'm going to go again and start assembling things. We have our head. Let's put some arms. Let's put an arm over here. Let's what else is missing? Oh, the body. The body. I cannot behave like a normal human being when I say the word body. I have to say it. The body. I don't know why. So we have our head, body, legs. So let's start. The first thing we want to do is assemble these two things, this and this. And actually the whole head is going to be one single auto layout. Let's center it. And let's say that the spacing between them is 0. So we have that thing. And now, I remember why. So you have to make another auto layout of this. Oh my God. This is another auto layout. Let's center it again. And then now I want to create another auto layout with the body and the arms. Let's put another one and let's add 0 pixels between them. And it's not looking great, but I'm going to tell you why. And let's add another auto layout. And this one is going to be 0 padding here. zero padding, and let's add a rectangle. And this one is going to be like the joint between the arms and the body. And this one, I'm realizing that I'm not liking this to be like so rounded on the top. So let's put it like this, and let's make this a different color. Let's make it like this. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's add another auto layout on this. And let's say that this one has a padding of 0, but on the top, let's put 8 pixels. And now it looks like a joint, my friends. So let's actually call it joint. Joint, is that what you call it? I don't know. Let's call this arm. And now I'm going to duplicate this arm. I'm going to put it all the way on the other side, and I'm going to flip it. Flip it good. Shift H, it flips it. And now we have, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm pretty excited about this. Let's call this head, and now let's call it robot. And now we pretty much have a robot ready. This is it. Now we can turn it into a component. It's not the most pretty robot, but it's a robot. And now let's see what happens if I resize it. It's not really resizing, and that's because on this one, we want it to be filling the container, but filling the container and then centering. So it looks like it's still not doing anything, right? So what we want to do is also this one to fill the container. So it's pushing the elements, but also we want the body to be filling the container too. Yo, fill the container. Where is it? Fill the container. There you go. So now it's pushing and it's like creating, it's adjusting to the size of the container. Let's do the same with, oh, by the way, like it looks like a robot is looking, we need to resize it here or component. And then let's do the same with this. Let's also say that it's filling the container, and or also the height is also filling the container. And then the frame is also filling the container. And there you go. Now it's responsive, my friends. So now whenever I resize this, it's going to like adapt to the size of it. And if you don't like this frame of the body, you can change it to something else. Let's change it to this and see how it adapts. Let's say that the eyes, I don't know, instead of those eyes, you want to change it to these eyes or to these other eyes. And maybe the antenna, you wanted the one that has a little circle on the top. Boom, baby. And let's do the same with this, with these arms. Instead of those arms, I cannot change it multiple times. I have to, oh, yes. So we have to change it here on the variant. We can go with this arm and then this one. We could change it to that one too. And that's pretty much it. That's what I was trying to show you today. How to create, use auto layout in a creative way to create, I don't know, illustrations that are responsive and that you can, even when you mix up things and like mash up different components, they just like work. So I don't know, that was what I wanted to share.
That was awesome. I was making Arnold like, do you even lift, bro? I was doing this. I was so excited by that. I love how much, Pablo, you nerd out over these technologies that you know were never intended for illustration. And then you're like, you know what they're going to be used for illustration.
Yeah. That's the idea too. Like use these other things that were meant for, I don't know, for buttons and for video and check boxes. I was like, no, let's use it for doodles.
Yes, checkbox. No, Pablo's going to make a robot out of it. I love it. That's so awesome. Thank you, Pablo. But in the name of moving forward and on, Kate.
Hello. This is going to be a little more chill. I have Pablo's energy, but I just think we need a little bit of a more relaxed moment. So I've done a little bit of a sketch, and this is our inspo. It is 11 from Stranger Things, and because I just started at Netflix, I thought it would be appropriate to draw something from Netflix. So I've done a bit of a sketch because I wanted you guys to get to see kind of how we go from a bunch of black lines to actual illustration. And so just some of the things are in my file. I've got another reference for her face when I was drawing. I have this other illustration, which is live. You can see it has all these little pieces in it. So I'm going to be using this as a reference for myself of my own work so that I can be consistent. And then because I'm going to be mutilating this and stealing pieces out of it, I've got the JPEG over here. So let's jump right in. Feel free to chat and ask questions, fellow hosts, because I won't explain every single thing I'm doing because I think a lot of it is rather intuitive, but I'd love for you guys to be able to say, how did you do that? So the first thing we're going to do is start getting all of these lines looking a little bit more like these pretty lines. So as you can see, actually we'll start with the nose. This is a great one. So this is just a stroke and everything is made out of straight lines, and I'm using the corner radius tool over here to make it curve because I hate drawing curves because I'm lazy. So let's see, I've already got some document colors in here that are pulling from that other illustration, which makes it real easy to get the colors I want. So we'll start with this. I'm going to grab that hex code and then radial gradient. It's all starting. So I'm putting the center of the gradient here, and then I'm going to make it go out to the edge. And then all of a sudden we have, boom, it fades out just like God intended. So this is looking a little bit light though. So I'm going to darken that. And that's probably a pretty good hex code. There we go. Okay, I'm going to steal that for the future ones. Much better. Okay, so then I'm going to just start going and applying it to all these guys. So because this is one shape, both of the lines on the side of her mouth, I'm using Figma's vector network to do that. We're going to use a linear gradient instead. So I'm going to bring that darkest color into the middle, throw in that hex code from before, put another point over here, same hex code, but put it to 0. This guy needs to also be the same hex code or it's going to fade out to black. And then, ooh, it looks like, does it still have some black? No, I think it's fine. There we go. There we go. So now I can rotate and get both of them nice and gradient-y. Perfect. So yeah, I'm gonna just do this for a couple other things. If y'all have questions, feel free to ask. Also, anyone in the chat, I'm more than welcome you to also ask questions. So, oh, you can see what Figma's doing here. Do you see how this looks like such a little weird, like if I turn it, it's way too narrow. That is because it's basically made an oval rather than a circle. So I either need to drag this out to make it wider or adjust the radius of my gradient. And now it's more even.
Question about, did you group these objects to share the same gradient?
I did not, because they have to, the gradient has to be placed along each individual line. So I can't group them. I only did it for these because it's going to be one line. Normally, I probably wouldn't even do that.
Working on these, how do you decide on what your stroke width is going to be typically? Do you keep it all universal? Are you going to kind of change that typically? Or does that just kind of come as you're building it?
I have some favorites. Some favorite stroke weights. 2 is a favorite, and 6 and 8 and 10, I like even numbers. I typically will look at the size of the face and then just determine how gradienty it can be, or not how gradienty, how thick this stroke can be, making a gradient. So I'm going to say the word gradient. Let's see. I should decide if I want it to, which direction I want it to fade out to.
I think you should continue with that.
Interesting. So I can tell that some of these layers are in the wrong order. So like I drew this hair first, so I have to bring these up. Yeah.
Beck has a question for you.
Yes.
It's a question about style. Now, where would you say that your style comes from? Is it influenced by the tool in any way?
So I've been doing a lot of vector drawing for a long time. So it's not directly from Figma, but Figma definitely enabled me to do it. And I think a lot of it just comes from trying to make the thing as fast as possible with the simplest shapes. I'm also real bad at figuring out how light works. It just does not, my brain does not do well with that. So vectors are great because I can work with solid shapes and I don't have to worry so much about how light works. And I know, Beck, you're a master of light. So when I watch your stuff, I'm just like, how's he doing that? sort of wizardry. How does he know where the light goes? I've like tried to take courses on it. It just does not register in my brain. Oh, shut it. Oh, you shut it back. You're too perfect. Okay, let's see. I'm just looking at my little reference here of like, how did I do that? What did I do that made it feel like I liked that drawing? Okay, so lips, I'm gonna go grab this color. Her lips are like way too red. I literally just typed in something you can do into the hex. You can literally type in the name of the CSS color. So I literally typed in red, and that's why I got that red, even though I knew that wasn't the red I wanted. Let's see. This is a good color. I've got some skin tones over here I'm gonna pull from.
Answer whenever you have a moment you want to answer a question. We do have a question from Sophie. If you have any favorite Figma shortcuts for your workflow.
Yes. Okay, I have the best one. The most important one is one I made myself. So let's say that I want to draw this whole face, which I've already done for you guys, but I want to be drawing all the lines the same width. So right now Figma, because I've just opened this file, it's going to start me off with black and 1, and that's no good because I don't want to draw everything. I want to set it, in this case it's 6, and I probably want to start with like an actual color and do most of my sketching in that color. So I can also set the corner radius. So I'll set that to something because a lot of the time I'll start with corner radii, and then set default properties is the best command ever, because now when I start drawing, it draws it with the properties that I had just set. I have set up using, I think the Mac allows you to do this. I'm sure Windows does too. I've set up a command for this. So if I change this to red, I've set it up to be Command Option Shift P. That's what I've set it to. And you see it just updated the property defaults. And now I'm drawing in red instead. And it would change the stroke or anything else that I've done about that, that object. So that for me is my fave, because it speeds up my workflow so much to not have to keep swapping back and forth. Okay.
Bonnie, I'm curious, when you're setting default properties, are you also setting like a default border radius too? I noticed that you kind of just click, and then the border radius to it.
Yeah, I did. I set a border radius in advance because I know that everything's going to be squiggle lines anyway. Another quick one I just did there was I just hit a number. So I hit 8. That's 6, 8, 3. You can see it's adjusting the opacity. So you literally select the object and then you put the number that you want. If I type 65 really fast, it will set it to 65. I usually just use multiples of 10 so I don't have to hit 2 numbers because I am lazy. Okay, let's throw some color in here real quick. So one way that Illustrator and Figma are different is that in Figma, you can select a whole bunch of things and then eyedropper, and it will change the stroke and fill if they have only one object, whereas in Illustrator, it's going to go get all the properties of that object. So this is really fast for me to just pull from color swatches. So like here, I want, let's see, this is my face color. Let's get some big gradients. Like those were little gradients. So we'll get some linear stuff happening up in here. So her hand is definitely real wonky looking. Like I'm not in love with this weird hand, but the goal of today is not to draw the world's most perfect hand. I'm not the person that you want for that tutorial. I just want to get all these gradients going. So I'm literally just setting linear gradients. And then adjusting them to be a little bit darker. There we go. This can probably be a little bit lighter. Yes, I'm pretty sure I typed maroon or something. Let's see, let me just grab it. Actually, it's probably the same colors as the hair. Boom. This pink, we can get a better pink for that ice cream, probably something brighter. Okay. Eyebrows. This is a fun one because this is like a trick of Figma. So what I am going to do is create eyebrows out of strokes. So as you can see, her eyebrows are real chunky, more of a Cara Delevingne eyebrow than beautiful Millie Bobby Brown and her tiny little mini eyebrows. So I'm going to hit Command Shift O, boom. It's now a shape instead. And now I'm going to just play with those points. And so they started out as like perfectly even, everything, one stroke. And then I'm going to go in and just start adjusting the corner radius on a whole bunch of these points to round them out. Zoom in even more. It feels like a 4. So now you can see we've gone from like a big chunky thing to an eyebrow, and it's really, really fast to get those shapes in rather than having to hand draw all the straight lines and get them to all be parallel and just It's way too much effort. Like, why would I spend that much effort when I could make like another drawing in the same amount of time? Let's see, is it up to 4? Oh, that's not enough. And it also gives you perfect curves, and I can do perfect curves with the Bezier tool. Like I can make it look really good, but again, why? Why do more effort when less effort will do?
I also think that just hand-drawn Beziers doesn't match this sort of to what you're doing. So
Yeah.
it feels like it matches more.
Very, very true, Reggie. Cool. Let's get these. I feel like these could just be a little bluer. Ooh, and we'll throw them on top and then down below the eye. There we go. Okay. We're still doing kind of like a rough sketch. Okay. This is looking a lot better than it did about 10 minutes ago. It's still not perfect, but I want to start getting in some of those bigger shapes and things. So we have to throw in some cheek. I didn't put this in earlier because I want to show you how I do it. So to shade the cheek, I start with the pink. Again, the colors here are not going to be perfect, but it's fine. And then effects, layer blur, boom, set that bad boy to real high. Like in this case, let's try 20. That's lots, that's plenty. Okay, opacity, 5. And then we're just gonna start, there we go. Now it's under the hair. Grab another one of those. It's on top of her hair, that's no good. I'm gonna duplicate this shape. So I've just duplicated the shape of the head, which as you can see, also built with straight lines and corner radii. So now I've got this selected and this selected, and then live operations intersect. Boom. So now it should be just glowing a little bit. I like to glow a little bit on the hair. Sometimes I'll have it just be straight cut off, but actually I'm into the glow lately. So, but now it's not just like a big circle. It's going to be in there. And then this, I'm actually going to turn that down a bit to 14. There we go. Okay. This is a very sweet picture. She looks a lot more angelic. Okay. We're going to just really quickly to kind of get a vibe, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to build the pattern on her dress using components. So this is the part where I just steal stuff from before that I've already made, because again, why do much effort when few effort will do the trick? Office, I don't know if there are Office fans out there. So you can see I'm literally just grabbing these shapes that I have. They are already set to all sorts of crazy shenanigans, throwing them just into the back. I know, because I know kind of what I've got in my own file. There we go. So you can see they're starting to interact with each other. Let's put a gradient on the back because the gradient's what's going to make it look really dope. Okay, so let's do a linear gradient, and we'll start it at. So this is a fun Figma trick. I learned this pretty recently. You can pick from document colors. You can also pick from a library. So I have a library called Personal Style, and it has all my colors in it. You now know all the colors I use. Those are them. Let's see, she's got a lot of, I like the yellow maybe, yeah. And I literally just pull out of here. So it's like you're pulling from styles, but you're actually putting in hex codes. So it's a real fast way of getting the right colors in. Okay, there we go. That feels pretty just fun and funky. Let's grab some of these circles. I know I've got them in here. Oh, there we go. Oh, I might have locked them. You can see all the things I locked in this old file. I'm just gonna open those bad boys up. Like here's some weird snow looking thing. Let's just throw it in there. Boom. Resize that because it's a little bit, this image is a little bit bigger. Now I've got those pretty fun shapes. Those also use a layer blur. I'm using a whole bunch of blend modes, but it just really quickly starts to make it feel like the other stuff that I make that has this kind of style I like. There's my noise. I'm gonna lock that. That goes at the very end. Shine. Okay, so I can tell I've built those. I named my layer there. That's good. All right, let's see if we can get those in there. I'm gonna drop those down to 50. Okay, so now we've got some actual like light coming on to what's happening, and that looks a lot prettier. Okay, how am I doing on time, Raji? Am I feeling good?
You're doing all right. I think you could do 5 minutes or so.
Boom, 5 minutes. Awesome.
People love your booms, by the way. It's giving people power. They're receiving.
Oh my gosh, do I say that a lot?
Yeah, I think when you like lay down points, you're very animated. So you just say like, boom, you make it happen.
That's what I do. Apparently, isn't it funny? People have like isms that like we don't realize we have these isms, but everyone else knows that we do. Like I'm sure that we all, like Pablo was saying "Mamma Mia," and I was like, oh, I love that, Pablo. I wish I had a cool phrase like "Mamma Mia," but it turns out I do. It's boom.
I mean, it's been repeated several times. Tushita says Bonnie's boom is giving me so much power right now. Victoria says boom. Bruno says boom shakalaka. People are digging it. Can't wait to also hear Justin's isms.
Ooh, that was not right. Soft light. That was not right. I honestly used to be such an expert with all these modes because I would spend so much time in Photoshop, and now I'm like, what do any of these even do? And also, you don't know how they're going to react to each other, like how they're going to play together. And I'm sure Justin's going to talk a lot about blend modes. If he doesn't, I've just, I've either spoiled it or, set him up for something he's not going to do.
It's confusing. So I just have like 2 trusty ones I rely on, and then the rest of them are just kind of superfluous. I don't really mess with them.
I love a blend mode. Okay. I just want to get the background to feel like an actual background. Okay. There we go. It's not perfect, but again, we're just trying to make something today. Okay, let's do the dress because I think that's going to be the fun last 5 minutes to get that guy in. And then I'll throw my noise filter on so you can see what it looks like. Okay. So she has all these super fun shapes in her dress, but like, oh my gosh, am I going to mask out all those shenanigans and like fix them all while in the file? Absolutely not. Let's make our own pattern real quick, super fast, speed trial. Okay, so this is great. Let's set it to one of our actual colors. Boom, I'm gonna make all of my shapes using this now. There's that, throw that in there because this feels like subtract selection, drag these down, drag them in a bit. I'm trying to mimic like, actually, why not just bring this picture, this reference that I have here. I'm trying to make this like pink, weird, blobby shape. Normally I would probably go honestly into Illustrator and I would get like the perfect, like scratchy looking thing, but we don't have time for that. We're just trying to speed make this thing. So, okay, there we go. Adjust these.
Wants to know if you start from sketches or do you just like throw down straight in Figma?
Straight in Figma. So Figma, all the Figma. Yeah, no, I literally just go straight into Figma. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Oh my gosh, it'll just be 90. Oh, no, don't lock. That's fine. I have to be not precious. Okay. Boom. It's a component. It's going to be called subtract. It doesn't really matter what it's called. Now we're just going to make a bunch of fun little shapes. Ooh, put a stroke on there. That's fun. Okay, that seems to be kind of a red color, so I'm using my thing that I've already preset. I'm not being precious about this. Frame 2. What a great name. Let's make, this looks like spiral or concentric circles. It looks like concentric circles. So how are we going to do that? Strokes, much bigger strokes, 20, duplicate. So then it duplicates at some angle for some reason. So then I would undo and repress it and then boom. Now we've got that. A sneaky thing I do, I select multiple stuff so that when I've selected one thing that strokes and fills, I can then just go grab the correct color in my selection colors. Boom, component 1, a great name. It's picking all sorts of fun names based on the thing that it used to be called. That's 3 shapes. Let's see if we can make a couple more of these kind of little triangles. It always puts a stroke when you start drawing with the pen tool, so I can't get it to, it unfortunately will not. I always have to keep taking out this black stroke, but it's fine. Let's throw a yellow triangle. Okay. This is enough to conceptually explain what we're going to do. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, I'm going to name this to dress. We're going to duplicate it because it's going to be a mask. As much as I don't love masks, it's fine. So then I'm just going to start throwing these guys on. And again, they're not scaled great. Like we're not building the most beautiful thing. We're just trying to make something cool that uses Figma in a fun way. Okay, here we go. So we've got all of these. I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to go down and find that dress and then use as mask. And now it has put all of those into that mask so I can move them around. We need to move it down though because it's way too high up on our, it's way too high up. Down. And then, all right, so right on top of the dress. Okay, boom, they all just appeared inside the dress. Now I can start being like, okay, well, I want this one to be a little bit smaller and I want to rotate this guy and what if I want to make some like actual changes to them? Like, what if I want to change the color? Well, it's annoying to go in here. Like, oh no, I've just lost it, even though I literally have this selected. I can just come down here and be like, oh, I hate that blue. Doesn't matter. Just gonna select this. It's our component. Change it here. It's gonna change it in there. Or like, oh, I want this to be smaller because it's way too big. K for scale. Ooh, did not do it? K. There we go. K for scale. So it's scaling my strokes. And thank you, Pablo. Thank you for this. I love that. I love that energy. So now it's scaling inside of here, which is super great because these are all underneath. And of course, I would normally, you can see why these were locked on that other drawing. They're all on top. They're getting in my way. Get out of there. But you can see how this really quickly makes changing these and moving them around really easy because they're inside that mask and their strokes, or sorry, they're not strokes, they're components. Have a lot of energy right now. Watching Pablo was very invigorating. And I was like, I want to bring that energy, but at the same time, I also want to be chill. So this is, again, conceptually, we'd probably spend a lot more time making all these and making them perfect and scaling them all. Let's get the last kind of little thing in there, which is some noise. I literally have just, I type in the word noise into my Mac and it tells me the file called noise. We'll set that to soft light. Boom, all of a sudden the colors look really pretty. You can see it has all that lovely texture, so that literally just goes on top. It's not perfect, like definitely not a perfect drawing, but it's not bad. The other thing I think that this file, ooh, where'd it go? This file has, the very last thing that we'll add is I think it has a big red shape on top. Red, I called it red because I like this red radial gradient that I found in the Figma community file. So I named it red and I throw it on top. And I actually want it, there we go. Oh, do you see the change? Okay, I'm gonna turn it on and off. So this is literally the power of red blurriness with a soft light blend mode. Off, on, like, it's like adding RFX. Looks so much better. So then that's up to you then as a designer to figure out how much, the opacity. I like a lot. I like a lot of it. But that is a very, very quick drawing of 11, AKA Millie Bobby Brown from, that's like, it was gonna be so cool. I was gonna zoom in, it didn't do that. Let's try that again. There we go, for the camera. This is a really great drawing, done very quickly in Figma, of Millie Bobby Brown playing 11 from Stranger Things.
Woo! All right, Bonnie Kate, that was amazing. I'm gonna channel some of Pablo's energy here. Thank you for the dances, Pablo. Thank you for the glasses. Your naming convention. Bonnie Kate, wow, Vector 32, Component 9. I love it. So good. All right.
Oh my gosh, it's literally just the worst names I've ever seen. Subtract frame 2, Vector 96, and Component 1.
I love it. I love it. This
Perspective. I think that's some chaotic energy. And honestly, I have nothing but respect for that alignment.
I'm with it. I'm with it.
My favorite part is that I literally yesterday tweeted about how someone was so impressed with my Figma organization. And now everyone on the internet's like, well, she's a liar. She clearly wrote that to herself.
Okay. I would request that you share noise.ping and red with the community just because it's, it's so helpful to us all.
Okay.
All right. Now we're on to the king of glows. The master of vectors himself, Justin Mezzell.
I want to point out, because we said it earlier, that there's some of us that don't draw with our hands and we jump straight into software. And so for me, this is my assist, is that I use geometry because I cannot draw. So it's been really helpful for me. A couple things about today. I am not looking at the chat, so I want to be interrupted. I'd like questions. We don't have a ton of time. We won't be able to make a full dimensional illustration. We're going to start and do some pieces. We're going to talk through why we do certain things, the way that we do it. Progress is not what we're going for. We're going for conversation. We're going for helping. We're going for tips and tricks and how we do a couple things. Okay, right here, I just started with a little simple, you can tell right here, it's a rectangle. This rectangle, I can make it real soft on that. So we've got this right here. That's going to be kind of our anchor point. And I want this to be dynamically cut into the material. So I'm going to duplicate this object. Now, one of the things that Figma doesn't have that you may have used in Illustrator is the ability to offset your shape right there. So we don't have that, but we do have some hacks. So if I turn this to white, go ahead and I flip using Shift X. Now you can tell I've turned this into a stroke, We'll go ahead, maybe we'll do this at like, I don't know, let's go 16. Everything I do is, the 8 system. I like 4s and 2s. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to expand that by pressing Command, Shift, and O. And so now we've got this shape right here. It's an actual, it's not a stroke anymore. So what we'll do is I have some colors that I selected for the material. We'll go ahead and start here. And what we're going to do is make this a gradient. And we'll break the style. We'll get into this gradient. We'll go linear on this. And then I'll go ahead and choose a lighter one over here. We can kind of exaggerate it if we want. But now you can see we've got this inset right here. There's kind of a dimensional surface that kind of starts tucking in there. So I made a couple shapes that we could just grab from and pull over. So that's what we're going to do. This little fella's going to go right here, right in the middle, you can see. And then what we'll do is we're going to bring this to the front. That way, this right here can just kind of hang out. And it's kind of using our own little mask system right there. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of make this a little darker. And then maybe what we'll do, maybe we'll soften this up a little bit. Get our corners to like a 12. Yeah, that's feeling good. And then I'll bring it in a bit. I'm going to duplicate that. And we're going to do the same thing that we did, which is we're going to flip this. We're going to set this outside. And then we're going to put this at like 8. Oh, we're not going to put it at 8. There you go. We're going to do it like that. All right, now we're going to go in here, add another color here. So now what we want to see is like this lip kind of does the same thing. It kind of expands and it kind of divots down a little bit right here. So we're going to go lighter up top. And then when we get to the bottom, we're going to go darker. So we're going to go here, set this. All right, so now we've kind of got this little thing right here. This is probably going to need to be a little darker. Here's what you're going to notice. Everything that I do, I'm just kind of experimenting as I go. I'm going to try color. I don't like that. I'm going to pull it back. I usually do not have a master system ahead of time that I'm working from. It's usually just kind of messing around and seeing what works. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to expand that. I'm going to union selection here. I'm going to flatten it. So now I've got this shape that goes right over it. I'm going to take both of these objects, and then I'm going to use right here these union selection tools. And I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to say, hey, where do these objects intersect? There you go. Create that. I'm going to go in here.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
What are we making right now?
We're making just some weird circuitry. That's all we're making. Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
That is exactly what we're making. Okay, so now we have this little object here. Now, if we have a top light that kind of comes, what we're going to have is this probably needs a little dynamic lighting. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and get a rectangle. I'm just going to throw it here. Again, it's a little haphazard. I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to select both of these. We're going to go back to the intersect selection. And then we're going to flatten this. But now what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of these lighter ones like this. And then we'll go in and we'll radial this thing. And now you can see we're starting to get a little bit of lighting that kind of comes from the top right there. Now we could do the same thing. If we wanted to flip it, we could just duplicate that object right here. We can invert it using our command or our Shift V, which is the vertical one. And we could do the same thing, but I think we'll keep it like this and just kind of pull a little bit lighter over here. So now we kind of got an object that's kind of working out here. Maybe if you want to add a little details, you could duplicate it. And then again, just so we can see the visual here, we're going to do this one inside, and we'll do it maybe like 4. And then I am going to expand this stroke. I'm going to duplicate this. And again, we're going to use this relation to subtract that selection. So now you can't really see it, but we'll go ahead and give it like a little line, like right there, just to give it a little detailing. We can go inside with it. We can even go down to like 0.5 if we want it to be super, super tight right there. Maybe we'll drop it down a bit. Okay. Yes.
From Nancy for you. Where do you go for color inspiration?
Ooh, great question. I would say, so when I'm building, I am rarely, if ever, building from pure black or like a pure white. I always want tints. So for this illustration, I'm going to use some neon light. And so what that means for me is when I'm creating these things, I want to have something that contrasts something really, really bright. So for here, I've chosen cool tones, like using slates of like a bluish gray. And the reason why we're doing that is because when we go in and start actually using our neons, it's going to create some cooler effects. So we'll take this, for example. I'll go ahead, drop this in. Let's go ahead and do our first piece of lighting. So I created this like really bright pink just by sliding it over, setting it right there. We'll go ahead and invert that so we're working with a stroke right there. I can put this at like, I don't know, let's go a little leaner here. All right, so I've got this at a 2 width here on that stroke. We're gonna go ahead and create that as not a stroke anymore. And then what I'm gonna do is I want some glow here. So we're gonna go down into our effects, and where you see drop shadow, we're gonna use this as our glow by simply going down here, selecting that pink that we already have. We're gonna put it to the Y coordinate at 0 so that it can span from there. And then we're simply gonna go, okay, we'll bump it up a bit. But what's cool about Figma is you can just go ahead and keep on stacking these effects right here if you want something to be a little more powerful than what you're originally getting there. Another cool thing that I will sometimes do is like, okay, if we've got a purple or a pink, what if we want the color to kind of change as it goes out from there? So let's see, we'll go ahead and actually, I'll leave it at 4 for now so you can kind of see the relationship. But as the color diffuses from the light source, maybe what we want is to start changing that light a little bit. And now we're getting kind of a purple right there. And it's at the bottom, so it's gonna be beyond some of those other colors, but we want this to be a way softer one. And all that really does for us is it kind of helps us with kind of light diffusion to make sure the lighting feels a little more dynamic and a little more different. We're kind of going for a synth wavy sort of vibe. Go ahead and do that, so 0, and we'll go ahead and do, I don't know, like 32. Okay, so we've got our first glow source right here. We're gonna make these a little bit bigger. So again, this is kind of angling out. We want more surface area on this just so we can kind of see a bit more here. And then of course, we're gonna have a glow as it kind of comes from here. So we'll go ahead, we'll invert this. So now we're working with an outside stroke, and that stroke right there is pulling from the actual surface material that we have. And this is a good time for us to start talking about kind of what we said with like blending modes that you can go into if you want. You can start kind of tooling with something. Hey, what does a screen look like here? What's a soft light look like right there? Maybe that's not enough. An overlay. And you can kind of start messing with a lot of these things. Say, well, maybe I need a little bit brighter. You can go ahead and drag this into a lighter area. If you want to keep the light source as pure as possible, you'll want to use opacity to just kind of start pulling it off a little bit right there. But now obviously what that's giving us is as this kind of starts blowing up, you're gonna see a little bit more lighting. Because we have this really big light, we'll go ahead, grab this thing, duplicate it again. What we wanna create is kind of like a lighting bloom effect. So flatten this selection. So what we wanna say is everything that is emanating from this top area should be getting the same kind of lighting effect. We can go ahead and create this. We can create another radial right here. And now you can start kind of pulling into these different shapes right there. You can go ahead and do, try out a soft light. See how that feels to you. Go ahead, try out a screen right here. Yeah, screen's feeling pretty good. Kind of drop that down. And now you can start seeing how this one light source is able to start interacting with all these other elements on the page here. If you want to make it a little more fun, you can go ahead, duplicate this main surface, and what we can do is add a stroke to it. So if I go ahead and do this, you can see, oh wait, we are in a subtract that was never flattened. Never want that. Okay, we'll go ahead, grab this one right here. Hold on. Oh boy, we've done something terrible. Luckily, Command-Z is still used every single day. All right, go ahead and flatten that one. And now what we'll do is we will merge that. We'll duplicate this. Oh, we're on the wrong one. That's why. That's why. All right, here we go. That's the one we want. Okay, so now we've got this going on the inside here. And we've got this little stroke that can kind of play off and just give us a little more dynamic lighting. We can go ahead, do the same kind of thing with a radial if we want right here. And this will just pull a much stronger light source that will affect kind of the interior surface right here. And I usually do this if I've got like a strong light source right there. I'll go ahead and bring something like that, just so you can see like where one surface area meets another, you might be collecting a little bit more additional light in that space. Nothing that I say is like because I understand lighting. I'm kind of similar to Bonnie K, where I don't really have much of a classical understanding of a lot of the stuff. I just kind of mess around and start feeling out, hey, what works, what doesn't work here. It's all just kind of experimenting.
Team mess around for the win.
I mean, it's the best way to do it. You don't need to know how it all works. And to be honest, the coolest thing about illustration is you're creating your own universe. It can follow your own rules, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love
Right, so you like a star.
Everything in Justin's universe is neon, and everything in my universe is rainbow, and everything in Pablo's is auto layout.
That's super true. Auto layout is dope, though. It is awesome. It's just like when I auto layout an auto layout inside of an auto layout, it does break my brain. It doesn't go too well when I do too much of that. So I actually love probably you're actually able to manage all of it in an insane way on the fly. Like that to me blows my stinking mind.
Yeah, how many containers did he have? Put it in another one, put it in another one.
We're just simply going to auto layout this auto layout. I heard you like auto layout with your auto layout.
I actually do love auto layout. Like for this, like what I was drawing was not a case for it, but oh my God, in a lot of my design work, I'm just auto layout forever.
Oh yeah, it does rule.
And
Go ahead.
Organizing as well, like organizing components and stuff, just to get everything all perfect and beautiful.
Some people do love organizing their files. I am not one of those people.
I would never advise it for myself, for sure.
I love it. I would have to have a lot more foresight on what I'm building to actually be able to organize all of that stuff. And usually I'm just kind of flying. And if it works, it works, but a lot of times it doesn't. And some things I keep and some things I don't.
Mm. I feel like I organize things when I'm passing it off to someone else. So like if I'm built, like Pablo's file is a great example. Oh my God, Pablo, your glasses. Pablo's file is a great example because he wants other people to be able to take that file or use it or learn from how it works. But like if I'm making this like drawing of a lady, it doesn't matter. No one else needs to have it organized. If it's for others, then I basically feel like it has to be somewhat organized.
It is the considerate way to do things. It is. I would say I honor Pablo's decision to do that. All right, so we're just getting a little cog kind of right here just to get some visual differences in some of the stuff that we're building. Go ahead, just grab this thing. And again, we're just kind of like tucking things in. So if you want, you can just throw it back there. And then you can always duplicate this area right here. And then what we're going to use is this object right here to go ahead and mask using this object. And now this is kind of just hanging out back there if you want to do something like that. Another thing that I think is pretty fun is taking like super basic shapes, like circles and squares and some strokes, and kind of just setting up like a little panel of circuitry. You can go ahead and like remix it, drag it over here. You know, if you want, you can like flip this stuff. And
That's
then what
a great
you can
opportunity for auto layout.
Oh, it is a great opportunity for auto layout. I had to, honestly, it is it. Pablo should really be the one doing most of these. The fact that I'm here is actually, it's a little silly because I actually trust Pablo's style on that best. All right, so we're gonna have mask that.
Justin, I have another question for you.
Yes.
Do you find that you can reuse a lot of the stuff you make? Like if you're going to make another illustration and you've already made a gear once, do you remake all your gears? Or do you like, I know my favorite gear, I'm going to go grab that gear?
It kind of depends. If I'm like being paid for the work, I typically do try to like not use something again because it's like, well, like I kind of built that already for them. If it's just like something that I'm messing around with, yeah, I totally don't mind just going ahead and just reusing something for fun. Yeah, that's kind of how I think about it.
I have a little bit of friendship, a little story from Justin and I's friendship.
We're at 3:15. I'm just letting you know.
Justin is a bit sadistic when it comes to recreating complex objects, but he's also, hand in hand, he is incredibly fast. Not when he's demoing, he's a little slower, but when he's working on his own, like just, he's in flow, he's incredibly fast.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, to be honest, like I think there's something relaxing about like very complex illustrations where there's just like a lot going on. Like I can put on music and I can just listen, and I actually really love that. I do. It's a fun thing.
I have another question for you, Justin. Just I don't want to cut you short.
Yes. Oh, we're at time on
No,
that.
we still have, well, we had 10 minutes, or we had 10 seconds, but we lost it because of our banter.
Sorry.
But my question for you is, I noticed you use a lot of styles, like color styles. Do you ever just rely on selection colors and kind of select a whole object and do that?
Yes, yeah, so I do, and I find it really helpful when you're flowing through things, especially if it's like, okay, well, I've got this surface that kind of goes like this. Setting up different surface layers for materials is really helpful for doing that kind of stuff, and I'll typically do that when I'm not just kind of doing this on the fly.
So cool, so cool. Well, this is going to be the end of it, but I want each one of you to be able to say whatever you want to say before we say goodbye to everyone. So feel free to jump in and say whatever you want to say. Promote your wares.
So it's time to plug. Is that what I'm hearing?
Do whatever you want to do. Say whatever you want to say.
I'm gonna plug. Here's my plug. I put it in the chat. Design by Us, which is Design X Us, is a nonprofit that I work for, and I am their brand lead. And we tell the stories of people in the design industry. And I make a lot of drawings with Casey, who was in the chat. And so if you want to hear more about people telling their stories of what it's like to work in design, to work in architecture, to work in the automotive industry, go read all the stories and follow us on Twitter so that my founders are like, BK, you did great.
Okay, I did not see the link in the chat.
Maybe it blocks links.
It's designed.
Links, just go ahead and drop it again, because I think it just maybe have moved up, but I don't know. I didn't see, oh, wait.
I wasn't sure if it would block a link, so I put it in. I put it in a couple of links.
You did the safe version of it.
Awesome.
And yeah, follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm funny. Yeah, make my mom think I'm cool.
I'll go next. Go try blush.design. Actually, after this, I have to go to the Golden Kitty Awards from Product Hunt because Blush was nominated as a design tool of the year. So hopefully I'll see you over there if you are into that stuff. But yeah, we're actually also looking for artists. So if you want to collab and also own a little part of Blush, come over there and join us because we're looking for more other artists to join us for the Founders Artist Group. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Pablo, congrats too on that nomination. That's so cool.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much
you.
for your time today, too.
Proud of you. Actually, Bonnie is also there. She has some systems there and on Blush, and you can use them on the Blush plugin from Figma. You can use them on your own layouts too.
Sarah wants to know, how can we join?
Oh, yeah. So there's a little link out there that says join as an artist, and there's a form. But if you just want to send me an email, you can just go to pablo@blush.design. And if you want to skip the form, you just want to send me your stuff, your portfolio, and yeah, we will be happy to look at it.
Awesome.
Get ready for a lot of emails, Pablo.
And Justin, let's hear from you, buddy.
I don't know, man. I'm in a season of just trying to survive what's going on in the world. I don't have a lot to plug. Let's see, Raji and I are working on a card game called Doom Chalice, and we're pretty pumped about that. If you like demons and drinks, then I think it's right up the alley there. We love a good sigil. I guess that's kind of what we're working on. Super Team Deluxe in general, we have taken we're taking a year off. Because it felt like a really bad time to peddle goods at the moment. And we're just like, people should not be spending money on Super Team stuff. So don't go spend money on that. But at some point when it's fun to hang out with people and drink again, check out Doom Chalice. It's going to be super fun. That sounds like a really good time and a great way to celebrate once you can again. Other than that, I don't know, take care of yourself, love yourself. It's a good time to do that. Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm glad I didn't go after Justin because he was so nice and caring about people, and I'm like, why don't you give me your time and attention?
Yeah, that comes through with just who you are. You don't need to say it. I got a punchable face. I gotta be nice occasionally.
I have to say, I agree. You do have a bit of a punchable face.
I know. I hear it a lot.
We are loving ourselves just by letting you around us. So this is all part of it. So thank you for letting us love ourselves.
Basking in those vibes.
I never get to quote people. So it was nice to try it out. I'm not sure if it's for me, but thank you, Justin.
It's for you. It's for you. It is.
All right. Well, everyone, we're going to say goodbye to the group of Bonnie. I feel like you want to plug one more thing. Do you want to?
Yeah, Bonnie. What do you got? What are you selling? What are you selling right now?
Okay, here we go. If you wanted to like go watch me on Twitch do this all the time, like if you go to my Twitter and say BK do Twitch streams, I'll go do Twitch streams. Like I will draw things for you. I don't know.
BK,
I
do
just
Twitch
want
streams.
talking. I just want to
Twitch
talk to
streams.
people forever.
Do Twitch streams.
Okay, great. So yet again, Bonnie is plugging more, but that's the way we love ourselves, is just by letting her plug these things.
I was also going to say Bonnie's got a Twitch stream, so I was just going to plug that real quick.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if
Make
y'all
sure I
heard
threw
that
that in
Bonnie
there.
has a Twitch stream. Yeah, we should definitely get that.
Also, Pablo's TikTok is popping off.
Oh yeah, Pablo, you're like
Pablo, how many characters do you have now?
Yeah, I just joined the TikToks. I'm like one of the old people there. I heard about this TikTok. What's going on here? I feel like an old person there.
Pablo. Oh my God, you have so many followers on TikTok. Holy crap!
Mhm.
Yeah, come join us. I do. I'm planning also to do live streams on TikTok too, and cool stuff there, and just like a little illustration tips. So yeah, hopefully we get to talk there.
Kate's on Twitch. Pablo's on TikTok. I'll start an OnlyFans. So just let me know what you're looking for, and I'd be happy to accommodate.
It's just got to have glows, whatever you do on OnlyFans.
They're gonna be those.
That's right. Don't glow shame. Don't glow shame ever. All right. Well, hey, thank you. This is our first event. We got to try it out on you, Pablo. You look squished, but thank you for being thinner today for us. Thank you all for jumping in on this. The next session we're going to do, we'll put it in. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to be a drink and draw session. So just chill where we all going to chat. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.